Hello and welcome to Connected. I'm Cherry Reynard. In this podcast, we were joined by Piers Lawson, Chief Technology Officer, and Josh Knight, Head of Product, to discuss technology innovation in the advice industry, and in particular, how advisors can get the most out of AI. So, Josh, you talk to advisors all the time. I wonder what you've seen or where you've seen AI having the biggest impact for them so far.
Yeah, that's a great question. We've been talking to advisors for the last few years about AI as obviously new technologies have been emerging. And one of the biggest opportunities is probably in the actual meetings themselves. Advice is such a personal service, and clients really value that time that they have with their advisor, whether it's face-to-face or online. But the admin that goes around all of that meeting is really where a lot of the cost and inefficiency comes in. So where AI can really help there is with things like transcription, summarizing, creating those meeting notes and making actionable data come out of those meetings. Just really streamlines the time that advisors have to spend with that kind of admin around the edge of the really valuable stuff they do with their clients.
Okay, great. I wonder if you could give your perspective on how it's impacted product development at Dynamic Planner. And Piers, perhaps starting with you on that.
Certainly inside the company, we're looking at how we can use AI to make us more efficient, make us bring product to market quicker. And in the teams that work with me, the development teams, the testing teams, they're certainly using things like GitHub Copilot, which is a tool they can use whilst they're coding. It can help explain the code to them if they're working in a new area, and it can help them with some of the more boilerplate, as we call them, tasks, the repeatable tasks. It's very good for that sort of thing, and letting us bring things to market quicker.
And Josh, your perspective on that?
Yeah, well, from a product and design point of view, we use a lot of tools. Figma we use for mock-ups and kind of ideating what things might look like. And they've introduced AI tools that allow you just to describe what you want to see, and the AI kind of makes it into a mock-up you can click around and explore. So it's a great way of speeding up that kind of ideation process. And then more generally, we get lots of feedback. We get lots of articles and things from the press in the industry and regulatory updates, and using tools like Copilot. It's really easy to then distill that down into short summaries that we can make more actionable for the team to kind of share and use with others in the business.
Yeah, and sticking with you, Josh, the other area that I hear a lot about AI being used is in the compliance burden. And you do hear these kind of stories about, it was miraculous, the compliance burden, 10 hours to 1 hour and that sort of thing. I mean, that may be kind of too much, but how are you seeing AI helping with the compliance burden?
Well, there's a few ways really. One is, I mean, we're a tool that principally helps advisors create the kind of auditable reports that are engaging for clients. They're not just there as an audit artifact. They're there to explain to the client what is being advised and how it's going to help them. So at that point of creation of those reports, we are looking at tools that can help just sense check, almost like a spell checker, but for compliance. People have got used to having that kind of always on checking for grammatical mistakes and spelling mistakes, but we can apply that kind of thinking into compliance too. So just checking and sense checking what the advisor's doing, just to make sure that they get to a good report quicker. Over and above that, as a platform, obviously we process so much data, we can see lots of data around the client. So we're in a quite informed position with the advisors to help them look at that data, and through our Insights MI, we're exploring ways that we can use AI, machine learning, to identify trends and interesting things that might have happened that the advisors might want to be aware of.
Yeah. And Piers, I mean, I wonder if you can talk about some other ways that Dynamic Planner's working with AI kind of behind the scenes to deliver better outcomes for advisors.
So, I mean, we've obviously been thinking about how we can use it directly in the user interface that people will see. But what we're thinking about is how our customers will want to use AI against Dynamic Planner, not through APIs, be able to actually drive Dynamic Planner itself using their own AI agents. So it's not all about what can we use AI for directly, but it's how people can use us using their AI. So that's one of the areas that we're very actively looking at right now.
And I'm hearing a lot about something called Agentic AI. Now, for like a non-tech person, I wonder if you can talk a little about what that does, what it is, and what it does.
Agentic AI, I think at a high level, you could say it's about getting AI to do tasks for you. So we're very all aware of conversational AI, where we're chatting directly with an AI bot, effectively. But with Agentic AI, you are actually giving the AI agency to do things on your behalf. So actually act independently on your behalf. Think of it like giving it some tools to use, giving it goals, a goal to achieve, and these are the things that you can use to get there, and then allowing it to independently go off and try to achieve those goals. It's adding a lot of flexibility to what might have been you might have done this previously with workflow, a very strict deterministic workflow, which would then fail when there was a little wrinkle in the world. Whereas with AI, Agentic AI, the hope is that it would be able to cope with those wrinkles, find a way around, and still achieve the goal that you're after.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. I wonder where you see the major risks in AI. I mean, not the sort of destruction of the world as we know it, but for advisors.
I think one risk that is definitely there. It's everyone's talking about it, but whether they're really taking note of it is you have to check what AI is doing. You have to look at the veracity of what's coming back, what it's telling you. Human in the loop is still important. You will be responsible for what the AI has done. You will not be able to go to the regulator and say, well, but AI did that. AI said that. This is the advice you're giving. So you have to be checking what it's doing. I think another thing that will be interesting over the coming months and years is actually going to be the cost of AI. At the moment, lots of firms are providing AI quite cheaply compared to what they're actually spending behind the scenes. I think we could see the cost of AI increasing over the coming months and years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some in the legal profession have kind of brushed up against AI making up cases and that kind of thing. Josh, I mean, how are you managing some of those risks inherent in AI?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and like with any software, how we test and prove that it's doing what we want and what users expect is kind of one of the fundamental things that our kind of software development process gives us. That idea of kind of predictability is more difficult with AI, where things aren't deterministic and the same input can give different outputs. But that's almost where we then apply a level of evaluations and testing specifically around the AI, that we can see a range of inputs, we can see what kind of outputs are coming out, and make sure that the models are being used appropriately to kind of give the kind of outputs within a structured process. And ultimately, all of the AI work we're doing is kind of within the main body of the structured, controlled dynamic planner process. So we kind of know what inputs and outputs we're expecting, and we've got code around the edge and logic around the edge that makes it more safe and more predictable to kind of provide the outputs that people want and need and expect. And as Piers said, it's all very much happening in front of the advisor, with the advisor there as an efficiency tool and something that's acting on their behalf, but very much with them in the driving seat. So ultimately, they can see what's happened, see what the inputs were, and always adjust things accordingly to best fit their particular client and situation.
And obviously, I mean, in common with a lot of professions, I think some advisors have been nervous that there may be an existential threat to them from AI. I mean, what would you say to advisors that are worried that, their whole business could be replaced by AI?
I mean, advice is such a personal business, and when we look at the demographics of who gets advice and when they get advice and the kinds of things they want and need, they're, as much as anything, they're looking for that personal connection and trust and support, and reassurance from a human, and that is, along with the great skills and knowledge and experience that they have, what advisors can continue to do. So I don't think that's going to be a problem anytime soon.
Yeah, I think some advisors seem to be using it to humanize their advice, to personalize it as well. I think that there seems to be
it's almost like an amplification. It's like it's making what the advisors do better, but you can't just have an amplifier. You need the input source there all the time.
Their judgment is always going to be paramount, and it's not going to replace their judgment, their knowledge about what is best for their actual customer.
And are there any areas where it's difficult to use AI? I mean, what are its key limitations as you see it?
I think the issue is actually it's too easy to use it anywhere and use it inappropriately. It's very easy to start a conversation with AI and then be using it for the wrong things. So it could give some advice, what appears to be advice, but it hasn't got the judgment behind it to make sure that's the correct advice. It's easy to use it for things that we currently use, do in a very deterministic way. We do calculations very quickly and precisely. You could ask AI to do that, but it will, one, take a lot longer to do it, and two, it will probably make up the answer and have it wrong and not be able to give you the same answer if you asked it the same question again.
And it would probably do it quite confidently. And again, that's one of the risks, is doesn't really know its own limitations, which is where we, again, think very carefully about how and where we apply AI into the process with appropriate controls around it, so that it's acting in a safe and reliable way.
Yeah. I mean, one area that seems to have been, draw different views is whether it can be used to identify vulnerable clients. Some people say it can be useful for sort of picking up signals. Other people say, no, you really can't you rely on AI for something as important as that. I mean, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think that's another great example where parts of this process you want to be very rigid and controlled and deterministic, and other bits need to be more malleable and softer. So we've built a vulnerability financial wellbeing questionnaire. Dr. Louis Williams, our head of behavioral science, has worked on that, and that's been part of Dynamic Planner for the last couple of years. And that's a very easy to use, repeatable, robust way of assessing if a client might be in vulnerable circumstances, where AI can come in with meeting transcripts, with things that are going on in a more spoken word situation, is suggesting when that might be an appropriate tool to do. So it's not replacing the tool, it's not replacing the assessment, but it's helping the advisor with their judgment and the kind of recording of what's happening, to then maybe make suggestions that is a tool that is worth using.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else that advisors need to be aware of, do you think?
I think one thing that's been really warming and great to see over the past few years is just the openness to innovation that lots of advice firms have got. These new technologies are really opening up things that historically would have been impossible or prohibitively expensive. And as Piers says, you can apply this this new technology in lots of different ways. And it's really been great to see the industry kind of open their eyes and minds to that and actually try new things to make servicing clients easier, quicker, cheaper, and get advice into the hands of more people, which is, you know, one of our fundamental missions.
Yeah, it certainly feels like a huge change since I first started in this industry. So you've talked about some of the sort of problems with AI. I wonder how advisors can trust AI.
I think that's a really common question. But really, I think the question needs to be how anyone can trust the companies behind the AI, because that's where the processes and the control point really come in. Without the process and control, life becomes a little too exciting.
Okay, and then obvious next question: how do we trust the vendors and the providers?
Yeah, well. So we've just been certified as ISO 42001 under AI governance and management framework. So that is a strong process that we follow internally when we're developing, even thinking about how AI can be incorporated into the dynamic planner that our users see and use, as well as internally how we use it. So by having those kind of processes in place that ensure that we are using AI in a safe, ethical, repeatable and controllable way, ultimately people can trust us under that certification to be doing things in a way that will have better outcomes.
Piers, I wonder if you can talk about what other innovations you've got going on this year. Is it all about AI, or are there plenty of other areas you're getting your teeth into?
Oh yes, we're certainly doing plenty of other work. Although some of that is actually aligned with AI. I think one of the big things that we will be working through this year is extending our open API. So as Josh said, firms, advisors will hopefully be looking at AI in their wider business, not just how Dynamic Planner uses AI. But if they do that, then they could be driving AI some more efficiencies by automating some parts of their use of Dynamic Planner through our Open API. So extending our Open API is going to be an important thing, and that helps people who are using AI, and it helps people who are preferring to use more deterministic, predictable workflows.
Yeah, and then just one final question. I mean, do you think AI will become a really kind of differentiating factor between advice businesses in future, or do you think you can muddle along without it? Piers, I'll put that to you.
I think everybody will be using it, at which point yes, it could be a differentiator depending on how smartly they're using it, but I think everybody will be using it in some form. We're finding it ourselves. Every business is starting to use AI internally. It might just be starting to come in at the fringes, and others are jumping in, with both feet. I think the point is everyone will use it. If you use it more, you'll probably actually be able to see it as a differentiator, but there won't be many people who aren't using it.
So go with the program. Great. Okay. Thank you both for a really informative discussion, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Please do keep an eye out for more podcasts. We've got lots coming up in 2026.